if you ever want to just cut through all the noise and see the perspective of someone who actually has to deal with AI on basically a daily basis and is fine dealing with it, but really doesn't like the way that a lot of people have been using it, the blog of Daniel Stenberg, the creator of curl, is always a very, very fun read. So, a few weeks back, you may have heard about Anthropic's Mythos. This was so much more powerful than any other AI model out there. It was so great at finding vulnerabilities that they didn't even want to release it publicly. Certainly a great marketing piece, and I did talk about it on this channel because, hey, things are getting better, vulnerabilities are certainly being found, and if we manage to find some sort of big upgrade along the way, that wouldn't be that crazy. Instead of offering it directly to the public, what they've been doing is offering it to companies directly, offering it to critical projects through something known as Project Glasswing, and then through organizations like the Linux Foundation. It eventually made its way into the hands of the curl creator for use with curl. Now, Daniel, as he does, decided to write a blog post on what this experience was like and how good it actually was on this codebase. The TLDR here is Daniel is, nowhere near as convinced as the marketing team for Mythos is. Mythos finds a curl vulnerability. Yes, as in a singular one, and we will get to that a little bit later. So, basically, the marketing was saying this was so dangerously good that it had to be trickled out to companies and make sure that they were able to fix the problems before anything was publicly made. The whole world seemed to lose its marbles. Is this the end of the world as we know it? An amazingly successful marketing stunt, for sure. Now, his access to this was a little bit strange. My non-access. He had access, but just not like you'd expect, at least not what he expected either. Part of the deal with Project Glasswing was that Anthropic also offered access to their latest AI model to open source projects via the Linux Foundation. Linux Foundation let their project Alpha Omega handle this part, and I was contacted by their representatives. As the lead developer of curl, I was offered access to the magic model, and I graciously accepted the offer. Sure, I'd like to see what it can find in curl. Maybe it finds nothing. Maybe it finds 100 vulnerabilities. Might as well try. If it finds nothing, hey, you lost a bit of time, but it's not the end of the day. Whilst Daniel might have a big issue with these nonsense, undisclosed AI reports that were being made to the project, notably to their now discontinued bug bounty, discontinued specifically because of those AI bug reports, the reason those were a problem is, firstly, they were not saying they were using AI. Secondly, most of them were just imaginary issues by people who were trying to abuse a bug bounty. He is not wholly against this tech in the case where expectations are set, where he is using it himself, or a known researcher is using it and has tested the vulnerability and can show the problem exists. The issue is a lot of the reports, frankly, didn't even test for the vulnerability. The AI said it was there, so they just thought it was there. I signed the contract for getting access, and then nothing happened. Weeks went past, and I was told there was a hiccup somewhere and access was delayed. Eventually, I was instead offered that someone else who has access to the model could run a scan and analysis on curl for me using Mythos and send me a report. To him, didn't really matter because at the end of the day, the AI model is still doing the work. Also, it's much better to have the tool being used by someone who understands the tool to have it properly scan the project, so he accepted this offer. Basically, to get the best case scenario of, are there actually problems that Mythos can find? Before this first Mythos report, they had already scanned curl with several different very capable AI tools, obviously in addition to the traditional methods of static analysis, fuzzing, strictest compiler options, things like that. But the AI tools, primarily IEL, ZeroPath, and OpenAI's Codex Security, have been used to scrutinize the code with AI. These tools and the analysis they have done have triggered somewhere between 200 and 300 bug fixes merged in curl throughout the recent 8 to 10 months or so. A bunch of these findings these AI tools reported were confirmed vulnerabilities and have been published as CVEs probably a dozen or more. So a dozen or more over 10 or so months, and the majority of these were still finding bugs, and bugs are still worth fixing, but they're not security vulnerabilities. When you look at something like the kernel considers basically any bug a security vulnerability because a kernel-level bug could crash the entire system. Yes, a bug in curl could be a security vulnerability, but in most cases, if curl crashes, it's not that big of a deal. Yes, it's annoying, but it's not the end of the world. But again, Daniel does not have a problem with the usage of AI tools. This is being directed by a developer in the project, someone who understands the code base, someone who understands problem areas of the code, and can use the tool as a way to augment what they're doing, rather than just say, find me vulnerabilities, I'm not even gonna test them. Grok, find the bug and fix it kind of programming where you're not actually programming, you're kind of just winging it and creating something which might be a vulnerability, might be a bug, but probably isn't. Nowadays, we also use tools like GitHub's Copilot and Augment Code to review pull requests. A lot of projects which otherwise aren't a big fan of AI do still make use of AI reviews, not to replace the human reviewers, but as an extra set of eyes which is approaching it in a different way. And it might just find nonsense, but sometimes it will actually address problems that you happen to miss. And their remarks and complaints help us to land better code and avoid merging new bugs. I mean, we still merge bugs, of course, but the PR review bots regularly highlight issues that we fix. Our mergers would be worse without them. The AI reviews are used in addition to human reviews. They help us, they don't replace us. We also see a high volume of high-quality security reports flooding in. Security researchers now use AI extensively and effectively. This is another blog post titled High Quality Chaos. I would title it, AI Vulnerability Gems. Basically, when someone is actually a professional, they're an engineer, they're a vulnerability expert, they actually understand a problem space, using a tool can massively improve what you can do in that space. Obviously a little bit different, but let's consider when synthesizers came along in the music space. A lot of people didn't like the idea of synthesizers because they felt like it wasn't real music and all this stuff. And obviously, you still need to understand music composition to use a synthesizer. But it's a lot easier for a regular person to make music with a synthesizer. However, if you do have that musical background, you understand composition, you understand how, music works, you can make something considerably better. And the same thing is the case with AI. Obviously, AI is vastly more automated, and you can produce something with AI, but if you have a computer science background, if you understand how to architecture a system, what you can do with these systems is drastically different than someone who wants to just skip over all of that foundational work. Now that the bug bounty has gone away, there is far less of an incentive to produce just nonsense on the hopes, on the possible chance that you manage to make a little bit of money. And this is shown in the data. 2025, things just absolutely spiked. And there wasn't just an improvement that massively changed things. This is just getting rid of the monetary incentive. Now those people go away. And yes, you're still going to get your slop reports because some people want to have, I fixed a bug in curl on their resume. But that is a lot less than I made $100 by reporting a bug to curl. May 6th, 2026. It was with great anticipation we received the first source code analysis report generated with Mythos. Another chance for us to find areas to improve and bugs to fix to make an even better curl. The initial scan was made on curl's Git repository and its master branch of a certain recent commit. It counted 178,000 lines of code analyzed in the source and lib subdirectories. The analysis details several different approaches and methods it has performed the search. It has performed to do the search, I think. We're missing a word there. And how it has focused on trying to find which flaws. A fun note in the top of the report says this right here, and it correctly found no problem in those areas. These are areas which are well covered, well tested. They're areas which are very unlikely to actually have any problems. And for a bit of fun, Daniel went and asked his followers how many CVEs they think it's going to find, and honestly, they were quite optimistic. I am surprised, saying 10. Okay. That's surprising, but 32% here also, they were more on the right track. The report concluded it found 5 confirmed security vulnerabilities. Now, the 5 is it confirming itself. Yes, the AI found the vulnerabilities and confirmed that it found the vulnerabilities, therefore the AI thinks they're right. Not actually 5, but also 5 felt like nothing, as we'd expected an extensive list. That's the way they'd been marketing it. Once my Curl security team fellows and I had poked in this short list for a number of hours and dug into the details, we had trimmed the list down and were left with 1 confirmed vulnerability. The other 4 were 3 false positives. They highlighted shortcomings that are documented in the API documentation, and the 4th we deemed just a bug. Still a bug to be fixed, but just a bug. The single confirmed vulnerability is going to end up with a severity low CVE planned to get published in sync with our pending next curl release 8.21.0 in late June. As you can probably tell, it is not a very important problem to be resolved. The flaw is not going to make anyone grasp for breath. All details of that vulnerability will of course not go public before then, so you need to hold out for details on that. Totally fair, but considering it's going to be a low severity CVE, it's probably going to be something where you've got to do like 20 different things and then it only happens on one specific version, which is probably not being fully supported at this point. I'm assuming it's kind of just there, but like not that big of a deal. The Mythos report on curl also contained a number of spotted bugs that it concluded were not vulnerabilities, much like any new code analyzer does when you run it on hundreds of thousands of lines of code. All the bugs in the report are being investigated, and one by one, we are fixing those that we agree with. All in all, about 20 bugs are described and explained very nicely. Barely any false positives, so I presume they had a rather high threshold for certainty. Yes, 20 is not that many, but that is 20 less problems in the codebase. Not particularly dangerous. My personal conclusion can, however, not end up with anything else than the big hype around this model so far was primarily marketing. I see no evidence that this setup finds issues to any particular higher or more advanced degree than the other tools have done before Mythos. Maybe this model is a little bit better, but even if it is not better to a degree that seems to make a significant dent in code analyzing. Now, keep in mind, maybe we're like looking at a single project here. Maybe in other projects, things are different. Maybe in Curl's just such a good project that it cannot find anything that is wrong with it. I wouldn't expect dramatically different results in different projects, but it's not something you can really rule out when you just have a single test case. But allow me to highlight and reiterate what I've said before. AI-powered code analyzers are significantly better at finding security flaws and mistakes in source code than any traditional code analyzers did in the past. All modern AI models are good at this now. Anyone with time and some experimental spirits can find security problems now. The high-quality chaos is real. That doesn't mean that undirected searching is going to find you things. That doesn't mean that every single problem an AI says is a problem is actually a problem. But they are quite powerful for people that know how to use them and understand the project they are working with, or at the very least, understand the language they're working with. If you don't understand the language, nothing you find is going to be useful to you. Any project that does not scan their code with AI-powered tooling will likely find a huge number of flaws, bugs, and possible vulnerabilities with this new generation of tools. Mythos will, and so will many others. Not using AI code analyzers in your project means that you leave adversaries and attackers time and opportunity to find and exploit the flaws you don't find, which, considering how Daniel has talked about a lot of the reports of the project, might seem crazy, but again, this is his perspective of him actually using it as someone who understands the codebase, along with his security team who understand the codebase, not just some random person coming along who wants a bug bounty. It should be noted the AI tools find the usual and established kind of errors we already know about, it just finds new instances of them. We have not seen any AI so far report a vulnerability that would somehow be of a novel kind or something totally new, so a new class of vulnerabilities that has never been found by a person. they do not reinvent the field in that way, but they do dig up more issues than any other tools did before. And that's still something. Now, is that something that you want to have in your project? To curl, which is something which has a lot of people using it, does deal with the internet, is something where it has corporate usage and security is important here, safety is important here, it's definitely something curl wants to have. But if you're a developer and you're running a project, that's a choice you need to make for yourself. These were absolutely not the last bugs to find or report. Just while I was writing the drafts of this blog post, we have received more reports from security researchers about suspected problems. The AI tools will improve further, and the researchers can find new and different ways to prompt the existing AIs to make them find more. We have not reached the end of this yet. I hope we can keep getting more curl scans done with Mythos and other AIs over and over until they truly stop finding problems. That doesn't mean there are no problems left, but it does mean a lot of problems have been resolved. So, at the end of the day, I've obviously been very critical of AI tooling, and I'll probably continue to be so, because a lot of the ways people are using it is basically to just not actually do work. They just want to make things easier. But when it comes to this situation, I can see what curl is doing, and it seems to be working well for them. So even if you are fairly negative on AI, I hope you can at least understand why curl is doing this. And I'd like to know. Let me know your thoughts down below. Are you a developer? Have you worked with these tools? What has your experience been like? I would love to know. Go subscribe as well. And if you really like the video and you want to become one of these amazing people over here, check out the Patreon subscribes Daily Bearer Pay linked in the description down below. That's going to be it for me, and it's a myth.
Like this.